Hey guys, so I'm by myself right now. Nizaar still hasn't joined, so that's why I'm a little bit late. I decided to just get it started without him, and then whenever he does hop on, I know he had a doctor's appointment, so perhaps it ran a little bit late, but I didn't want to keep you guys waiting any longer. So I'm just gonna start the stream. You guys can go ahead and ask me whatever questions, and we can kind of like wait for him to see if he joins, and then if not, I'll just have to reschedule. That's no problem at all. There's still so much to talk about between this weekend. I feel like it was a super hard weekend to be a Chelsea fan. Wearing my headphones because there's been construction since literally 8 a.m. this morning, 7 p.m. now, so 11 hours straight of construction. So hopefully it doesn't impact the stream too much and you guys can like hear me okay. Let me know if you have any problems. But unfortunately, there's not that much that I can really do about it. But guys, ask me any questions that you have. Let's ask away. I'll make it kind of like a Q&A session until Nizaar can join, if he can join. And if not, like I said, we'll reschedule. Yeah, thanks so much. That's super cool. I'm really glad that you could catch this live and hopefully just doesn't disappoint. Sadiq, I totally feel you. I was in such a bad mood this weekend because it was rough being a Chelsea fan, like losing the FA Cup final in the way that we did. And I want to talk about that. Losing the Champions League final for the women's team 4-0. That freaking hurts so badly. I feel you. We're gonna get into all of it. Do want to see if I can like talk to Nizaar about that, but if not, I will definitely touch on that. Riles asked, who is your best Chelsea performer of the weekend? So I was away this weekend. I saw the first 60-ish minutes of the FA Cup game, and then I couldn't watch anymore. And I don't think I've really missed all that much, but I think with a performance like that, you really don't have a best performer, do you? You know, you don't. Like I think the academy boys were like Reese, Mason, you know, they really step up in those types of games and you can tell how much it means to them. But other than that, I think, you know, you can't really have a best performer when you've lost 1-0 to Leicester in an FA Cup final. And I think like the thing that's most disappointing to me is that we didn't even try, you know, like we really just looked like we weren't there. Okay, I think hearing can you guys hear me okay? Just let me know. Took my headphones off because it's kind of weird to listen to myself like very, very muted. So let me know if you can hear me really quickly in the comments, okay? This way I know that I'm not just like speaking nonsense. Okay, cool. You guys can hear me. Yeah, thanks so much, guys. I hope that you still enjoy this stream. Keanu says, how did Chelsea beat Man City and Real Madrid but lose to Arsenal and Leicester? This is a really great question and one that I myself have been pondering. So, like, I think that Chelsea might have like a mentality issue that you can go into these big games and you're super pumped because it's like it's Real Madrid, it's Man City, and you really want to beat them. And I think with Arsenal, we were just complacent. Totally complacent, saying, oh, well, you know, we beat Real Madrid, we beat City, we should be able to beat Arsenal, and maybe not necessarily put out, the construction's back, like the best team ever. And I think that that's why you see Chelsea like losing to other sides or to drawing to like a Brighton or to Leeds. I think it's just complacency. And it's like this mentality issue has been talked about in the team for years and years and years. And it's still not getting solved. I don't know why. You have senior players that should be stepping up. And it's still an issue. And against Arsenal, I was kind of thinking, well, you know, it really freaking blows that we lose against Arsenal, but we should be looking at the FA Cup final that we have right now. And I feel like I was expecting us to have a really big performance in the FA Cup final because we didn't play well against Arsenal. But then it just feels like, no, the FA Cup final, still did not show up. It just seemed like some of the players like couldn't be asked. Like Leicester looked so freaking motivated in that game and Chelsea didn't. I think that that's super, super frustrating. So I want to see a massive result tomorrow, a massive response. I think it's like you can't expect anything else. Oh God, the construction is so loud. I'm sorry, you guys. Football Bloods TV says, should Werner continue to start this week against Leicester? We'd love to see Chilwell starting. Yeah, I don't get why Chilwell hasn't started the FA Cup final. I think like you have to play your best team. And then should Werner start? I don't think so. I think he had a really bad game. And he had 4 shots, none of them on target. Like he should be doing better than that. I understand that his pace could be warranted, but I just feel like he's so out of confidence and he's so out of form, and it's frustrating because I kind of go back and forth with Timo Werner, like, oh, is he going to show up? Is he not going to show up? But at the end of the day, I don't feel like he has been performing good enough. And for me, it's frustrating. Like, why don't you give somebody like Tammy, who's still your joint top scorer, and he hasn't played for the past like 3 to 4 months? Why do you not give him a chance? You know, that's a whole other thing. Like you have 2 left backs on the pitch in Emerson and Alonso, and you're not putting Tammy on your bench even when you know that goals are an issue. So in short, no, I don't think that Werner should start. I think we're probably going to see Pulisic, Havertz, Mount, but I want to see Tammy on the bench and I want to see him come off. And I think that he has a point to prove, saying, you know what, you didn't think that you could rely on me. Well, I'm going to score a goal, you know. I really like Tammy. I don't know why he's being left out of the team, and it just like really sucks. James asked a really interesting question. He says, if we lose Champions League and miss top 4, what would you think of this season, considering that Tuchel's turnaround of the team has been praised so much? So I think we have to like backtrack a little bit, right? Like when Tuchel took over, we were in 10th place. 10th. So I would have bit your hand off at the opportunity for top 4, for FA Cup final, for Champions League final. I would have. And I think like if he had the entire season, we would have gotten top 4. So I don't think it's like not necessarily his fault. Like there are some games that we definitely should have won. We've brought this onto ourselves because we've been complacent in games that we've drawn, games that we should have won. We've lost games that we should have at least drawn or won. And I think that, you know, that's really unfortunate, but it's not all on Tuchel because there was half a season and Chelsea had a really, really, really bad to perform. And that's incredibly difficult to recover from. So, if we don't get top 4, I'm going to be gutted. And I think that we only brought onto ourselves, but I'm not going to be Tuchel out. Like I've seen people saying that, oh, would you still keep Tuchel as the manager? Like, absolutely, I would. I wouldn't sack him just because of that. It was a big ask to begin with. And clearly there are problems in this team that still need to be ironed out. You're for Hara as thoughts on Kepa loan possibility this summer. Yeah, I mean, if you can do it, I don't know if anybody's going to really want to pay his wages. He's going to be expensive. The club really aren't going to budge, I think, on his price as well. But at least if you can try to drive, if he has a loan and you can try to drive his price up a little bit, if it's successful, then that could be really good for him. And you try to find like another number 2 goalkeeper. But what doesn't make sense is to have a 70 million goalkeeper sitting on your bench. And I want Mendy to be the starting goalkeeper. So I think that just makes sense. Kepa is a whole other situation as well. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like for the FA Cup final, like something that was really frustrating for me was that I didn't feel like we played our strongest starting 11. And in a final, you should be playing your starting 11. Like I mentioned this in my match preview that I would start Mendy. Maybe that's a little bit harsh on Kepa because he's your FA Cup keeper and he got you to that stage. But Tammy is also like the striker that's been playing in the FA Cup. He wasn't even on the bench. Then you have Alonso. Like, why wouldn't you play Chilwell, who is playing against his former club? He's been in much better form as well. Like, it just felt really, really weird and disjointed. Steven asks, do you think we can still win a trophy this season? I mean, the only trophy that we have a possibility of winning is the Champions League. And if we play like we did against Leicester, then I'm scared, honestly. Like, City are going to dismantle and destroy us. And it's been a total reality check because I felt like we were playing so incredibly well. And then they just come and, like, we've had 2 really, really bad games, but really bad. I think the players have got it wrong. 2 goals got it wrong. It's just been wrong all around the pitch. And so I don't know. I think we're the underdogs going to the Champions League. Like, never say never. You could still win. But I don't know. Chances aren't looking great. And just, I missed my place in the comments. Yeah, Tenny says, I think we're better suited as underdogs than the favorites, I think. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I don't know about Kepa being a jinx, but I do think that you have to start Mendy in the final. Like, he should have started definitely. Like, I'm sorry. I feel like if Kepa was maybe like an academy player, then Mendy would have started, but he's like a 70 million player, so he started. I don't know. It just feels like weird. But there's a certain point where you have to play your best starting 11 in a final. You play your best freaking starting 11, and that didn't happen, and it feels really, really weird. So he asks, how will you celebrate if we win the Champions League? Probably just like make a video dancing or something, and I'm probably gonna cry. I don't know. Chelsea Champions League win or top 4? Obviously Champions League win. I think that's pretty easy because if you win the Champions League, then you're automatically in it next season, and the whole point of getting top 4 is to try to get Champions League football for the next season. So definitely I would rather win the Champions League. Steven asks, what's Aspie doing in your apartment? He's confined to the bedroom while I stream. Yeah, we have to get behind Thomas Tuchel. Totally agree. I didn't watch the game, so I don't know what the fans are like. I'm super jealous of anybody that's able to go to the game. Like, honestly, that's super cool. Nazrin says, what do you think about the VAR decisions against Chelsea this season? That offside decision for Chelsea's equalizer against Leicester City really hurt. I could go on a whole rant about VAR. Like, I don't want to rant too much, but I just feel like it's being used so improperly, like not used well at all. It's not being implemented how it should. It's checking things that are not clear. The whole point is that it checks for something that's a clear and obvious error. And then if you have to be drawing lines for 1, 2, 3 minutes, obviously it's not a clear and obvious error. And so then just the way that you're drawing lines to like a millimeter to check if somebody's offside, not to mention that it's incredibly difficult to get a snapshot of exactly when the ball was played. Players are just in certain positions. If you are running towards the ball, your body's automatically going to be a little bit more forward. If you're trying to block, maybe your body's a little bit more back. So it's just incredibly frustrating. Like, I didn't think that Chilwell's goal was offside. And it's also just ruining the game experience. Like, I don't celebrate goals anymore unless they are from like a run that's really far out, because you never know what they're going to check for offside. I think it's just terrible. So I don't think that they're implementing it properly, and they need to change it. They need to do something, because right now it's just taking the joy out of the game. I can't even imagine for match day fans where you don't even see that they're drawing the lines or whatever, and you're just sitting there waiting. Like, that sucks. That really does suck. So yeah. No, I don't think that Kepa should be a goalkeeper for UCL final, and he's not going to be. I can tell you right now that he is not going to be starting in the UCL final. Absolutely not. I think he started in the FA Cup final because he's been like the FA Cup keeper or whatever. But I don't think he's going to be starting in the UCL final at all. You have to start your first team 1,000%. You must start Mendy in that game. And yeah, I mean, Kepa hasn't played that many games. That's why he kind of played the game against Arsenal, because you don't want to just throw them into a big game. But I fully expect Mendy to finish the season. And thanks. I'm glad that you enjoy my videos as well. Yeah, Steven, I agree that Mendy should start every game. And you make a good point that I feel like I know that there has been so many games and it's really difficult to manage. But at the same time, I think that you need to be playing players consistently in order to be able to gain an understanding and a chemistry with one another. And that's part of what is kind of like failing at Chelsea right now. I think that you're just changing it too much. Like even in the FA Cup final, why are you changing Reece James to right center back and have Azpilicueta on as a right wing back, like when Reece hasn't played in that position before? Like, understand maybe to deal with Vardy or Iheanacho, but still, it just feels like a little bit like not the right time to be doing that. You know what I mean? And I think that, you know, we're changing the attack so much. Like we don't know who's going to be starting in that attack. You can see any combination of players. It's partly an issue because you just have a really bloated squad and you have so many players to choose from. All were bought in the summer, all expect to be starting, but you don't really know who's your best player, and it's frustrating. I think, you know, that you keep changing and you don't give them time to build with one another. Baggy TV says, if we don't win the Champions League but still get top 4, will this be a successful or failed season? Successful, 1,000%. Like, I have no doubt about that. Like, getting past the round of 16 was a success for me because we haven't done that in so many years. Like, we have not performed in the Champions League. We haven't been in a final since 2012. Like, that's just an accomplishment in and of itself. And if you get top 4, like, that's really what Chelsea wanted. You know, you have this squad, you have all these players that are struggling to kind of get adjusted to the Premier League in their first season. You sack a manager halfway through, you're sitting at 10th, then you somehow make it to 4th. Like, I think that that's a really big achievement. A lot of people say, oh, well, you had 200 million signings, like you should definitely be getting top 4. But I think like you have to realize these signings are young and they take time to adjust. And when you have so many players constantly in and out of the team, it's really difficult. Like, you have to look at teams that have been playing for so many years and they have such an understanding with one another. So I don't think it's as easy as, oh, we just bought a ton of players and now they should perform. Like, that's just not how it works realistically. So I think like top 4 is a great achievement. Making it to the Champions League final is a massive achievement. And then next year you can really start challenging for the Premier League, maybe Champions League again, FA Cup, etc., etc. Disney asks, do you think we should sign a new striker? It's an interesting question. I don't know. Like, I feel like you could have Kai Havertz in that role. You know, if Tammy Abraham stays, you have him. Maybe Giroud is going, so you want to buy somebody to replace him. But you have so many attackers, but I just feel like we are missing that like true number 9 that's like a senior player that's going to be a game changer and win you games and just be there and know that you can get 20 plus goals a season. Like, I don't know if Timo is necessarily that person because he really needs a lot of space to operate. And I think he's going to need to try to change his game massively if he wants to be like very, very successful, because you're not going to get that much space in the Premier League in a good majority of the games. Maybe at least half of the games, you're really not going to get a ton of space and you're going to be defending against you're going to be attacking against a low block. So in that sense, I think that it could make sense to sign a striker. Who it's going to be, I have no idea. Seems Haaland isn't leaving. Lukaku probably isn't leaving. Harry Kane is impossible. I think Aguero is wanted to go to Barcelona. So yeah, I don't know. It will be interesting to see what happens in the summer. Yeah, I saw that we were linked to Madison, and like Leicester's just such a well-run team, honestly. Like, they just do it so good. They make so much money on players. Oh my god, I lost off my comment. Yeah, I do think, like, I think that Tammy's the type of player that can easily score 20 goals in a season, but you just need to give him like that time and consistency. Obviously, if you're going in and out of a team, it's going to be incredibly difficult to do that. You know, you can't just expect players to not play for a month and then come in and be a match winner or like amazing difference maker in the side. Like, it really, you need match fitness and you need chemistry with the team. And that just comes from playing week in, week out. So I don't know if he's going to necessarily become like a prolific striker. He does have areas that he needs to improve, but he's a good goal scorer, and I have no doubt that he's definitely going to be successful when wherever he goes. If he does leave Chelsea, I think it's sad. Yes, I did see this, and I was so pissed when I saw this video. What? Why? Why? The disrespect is just like through the roof, honestly. I hope that they watch that video like on a loop and they get riled up and they go batter Leicester. Honestly, like I thought that was like so incredibly rude, and we need to be beating Leicester. Absolutely. Who do you think wants it more, City or Chelsea? I don't know. I think like both teams will want to win Champions League final. It's like, it's Champions League final. Yeah, I think this is like the only weird thing that I've really noticed. But like it's just weird, especially like having two left backs and Emerson and Alonso, and you don't have Tammy. Like it just feels really, really weird. Yeah, I mean, do we need new signings? I would say yes. The team still feels like there's some holes that need to be filled. We're seeing it now in that like midfield too. Conte and Jorginho cannot play every single game. Jorginho can have a great game or have a bad game. I think he is good in specific games, but he can be quite limited. Conte is getting older. He's getting more injury prone. He's not going to be able to play every game. Like Kovacic is injured, and then you're really left with those. And Billy Gilmore, who is an amazing player, but he's still young, and you really need like a more senior player in that position, or just somebody who has a lot of experience. So I think you need like somebody in that DM role, perhaps a striker, and then perhaps like a center back as well. Especially like I would love to see a switch to a back four, honestly. Just because I feel like the back five, like you don't always need to play a back five, especially against a side like that's going to play a low block. Even if you have those attacking wing backs, I just don't feel like it's like I would rather have another attacking player on the pitch than an extra defender in that case, if that makes sense. So I feel like some of these players could potentially get caught out in a back four. So I'd like to see like maybe us sign somebody who can play in a back four. Yeah, Colin, it's been a sad weekend. Like when they scored yesterday for the women's team after 30 seconds, I was like, you've got to be kidding me, honestly. And it just felt like it went downhill from there. So sad, especially after the season that they've had. That's been like such an amazing season. I just wish that it was like at least close. Like if you lose maybe like a 2-1 or 3-1 or something like that before now, it just like really, really hurts. But I'm sure that they're going to like take this, how do you say, take this on the chin, take this on the chin, and learn from the experience. This was their first Champions League final, and I think that Barcelona side actually had lost 3-0. I think like they had gotten battered like 2 years ago in the final, and then they won. And their goal difference in the league is insane. It's like 130 goals or something ridiculous like that. Like it's insane. They've only conceded 5 goals this season. So they're a really great side. No shame in losing to them, but I'm sure that they're going to come back stronger, and hopefully they can win it next year. Yeah, I mean, I think I think that it's difficult because like you have these players that are young and you can see that they're talented, but at Chelsea, maybe it's just not necessarily the right time because you can't give them the time to develop that they need because you just want to have like instant success and gratification. And maybe they're not the player that you need right now, but they could become that player. And so it's just really frustrating. But I do think like, I don't know if Tammy's going to get to like that level. Like I do think those players are like world class, but I could definitely see it coming to bite us in the butt. So I don't know if he's going to be able to turn things around, especially under this manager. But yeah. Well, so Steven asked, what's going to happen to Tuchel if we lose Champions League final? Honestly, I don't think anything is going to happen to him. Like, I think he should be back for at least 1 year. He hasn't made any signings. He's only had a couple of months with the club, and he takes you to the Champions League final. Like, that's really impressive. I don't think that we would get to a final if he wasn't our manager, honestly. So I think that he's going to stay. I don't think losing a Champions League final is anything to be like sacking a manager about, especially when we've had so much up and down in the year. Oh, Nizaar joined. Hello.
Hi, you're right. How's it going?
How's it going? Good.
Yeah.
I've just been chatting.
Oh, good. Yeah. Sorry, I'm a bit late. You all good? How's it been going? Getting a bit of interaction?
Yeah, I've just been chatting about literally I've just been doing a Q&A session while everybody's been here, and we've been chatting about like the FA Cup and the Women's Champions League and everything with Tuchel as well. It's been a tough week as a Chelsea fan. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right. I went to the cup final. The FA Cup final, of course, and it was a shame to see Chelsea, so disappointed. Like, you meet some of these guys and you know how much it means to them. And we interviewed Reece James before the game as well, and he's just like a Chelsea fan who wears the shirt, so he's just like you, really. But he's getting to live his dream of playing for his boyhood club. So yeah, I mean, speaking to him, hearing his story, but then at the same time that Chelsea will be back and Chelsea will pick it up. So I'm not too worried about Reece. I know he's going to lift an FA Cup in his lifetime, maybe 2 or 3. So yeah, he'll get a shot again. He's young, he's talented, and he'll be an FA Cup champion in the future.
Yeah, I think that it's an experience, like definitely for these players to learn. But I don't know about you, but I was just really disappointed with the lack of drive that I saw from a lot of players on the pitch. Like I think Reece and Mount, maybe Conte as well, were like some exclusions. But other than that, I really felt that they should have brought more to this FA Cup final. What about you?
Yeah, I thought they could have been more dominant, for creating more chances, more creative, more dominant, be a Chelsea team. I think that Chelsea are a bigger team than Leicester. I mean, I really respect Leicester. I watch a lot of Leicester. My girlfriend supports Leicester, so I know a lot about Leicester City. But yeah, at the same time, I do think that Chelsea expect to come to these games against clubs like that and dominate, and they didn't. I think that they created a few chances, but nothing like what you'd expect. Kasper Schmeichel made 2 great saves. Unlucky on the Ben Chilwell one. I thought that just not creative enough. But we've seen it all season, really. It's every single win has been about the defence. It's been about edging teams out, giving nothing away. And Chelsea didn't give a lot away. It was a wonder goal that beat them. But I'd like to see Chelsea do more domination. We know they can hold the ball. Frank Lampard's Chelsea held the ball. Sarri's Chelsea held the ball, and really just closed teams off and did create a bit more. So as good as Chelsea have been under Thomas, which is amazing, by the way, I just want a bit more excitement, a bit more creativity. And you think they should be able to do it with the players they've got as well, don't you? So yeah, I don't know. That's where I find disappointment. Maybe there's a bit of a period as well where Leicester physically dominated the match. I think maybe just after half time, they sort of got into Chelsea, got the ball back, and made Chelsea make a few errors. And that's kind of like the period where Tielemans scored as well. I thought that maybe was a bit of a lack of desire, but I know the boys wanted it. They really did. I saw the way they reacted to Chilwell scoring, the way they reacted when the goal wasn't given, and the way they, in the stadium, you don't see it on the TV cameras, but when you're in there, you're looking at the players' faces and seeing how they're reacting. And so bad, like, the way some of them felt it. Leicester in one corner celebrating, the boys looking in the other corner. I'm just wondering if they're going to take out their anger in this Premier League match, because, I mean, watching that must have really hurt.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so frustrating that Chelsea lost another FA Cup final. in a row. Like, that's just so disappointing. But for me, I felt like they didn't show up. I only watched like 60 minutes because I was away for the weekend, and I felt like I know how this game is going to end. And I think that that's like what's most frustrating. So do you think that it's a mentality issue? Do you think that it's fatigue, that they've just been playing so many games in a row? Like, why are Chelsea having so much difficulty in the last 2 games or so?
Yeah, I think that with the last 2 games, I think it is maybe fatigue. There may be a bit of luck. Maybe at certain times of the season, Chelsea have had luck, and now it's sort of like run out. I mean, let's not forget the run's been incredible. Everything's come together perfectly. I mean, Tuchel calls it luck. That's how he looks at it, because don't forget, Chelsea dominated Arsenal. Arsenal were poor, but Chelsea still didn't score. And then, yeah, against Leicester, Chelsea didn't give a lot away, but didn't create enough and ended up losing a game. So, it is a bit to do with luck. A few of the decisions went against Chelsea in both games and stuff like that. But you can't just put it down to luck. I think that, okay, maybe everyone got a bit carried away as well during the run. I think that perceptions changed. So everyone all of a sudden think you beat Real Madrid, you beat Man City, and you're invincible. You can do anything. And I think that almost the bubble bursting for a lot of fans has brought it right down, and everyone's got a bit too low. And I think that it's somewhere in between that. Yes, beating Real Madrid was great, beating Man City was great, beating Man City twice, of course, but don't get too carried away. Chelsea are not the finished article. There's a lot of problems, and you mentioned mentality there. I think that that's an issue that Chelsea have had for some time. I mean, you look at when John Terry retired, and left Chelsea. And I remember, covering Chelsea back then, and Antonio Conte was like, this is John Terry. He's massive behind the scenes. This is the reason why Antonio Conte's Chelsea won the titles, because he was like the glue in the dressing room. He pushed the mentality to that level. He's so professional, so good, so influential that it lifted everyone's games. And maybe there's not quite that leadership, and we've kind of like dabbled with the subjects. A lot of journalists have dabbled with it time and again, and maybe that's been an issue down the times. And the average age of the squad has come down even more under Frank Lampard. Thomas Tuchel's picked up that squad, and these guys aren't winners really. I mean, Kai Havertz played for Bayer Leverkusen. They're not a winning team. Bayern Munich are the winning team in Germany, so he needs to learn that. Same with Timo Werner and RB Leipzig. They don't win hardly anything. I think they're always second place pretty much. So yeah, Chelsea have ended up like that in the last few years. So they've got a lot of players. The academy guys as well. They won a lot in the academy, but winning at senior levels and other things. So you could say that maybe that's an issue. You've got guys like Azpilicueta who've won a lot. You've got guys like Rudiger, Zuma who've won once or twice in their careers. But you've not got serial winners too much in that dressing room. I'd say maybe Thiago, Giroud and Kante deserve to be counted as serial winners, maybe Kovacic as well. But there's not enough of them, and they're not influential enough, and they're not those leadership type characters as well. So maybe that's an issue really, and you can coach it and you can learn it. People like Mount, he's going to be a big leader in the future, and I think James could be as well too. So yeah. It will come with time, but it's just not there yet. And maybe that's an issue. It's so hard to pinpoint, but I think that might be a small factor in it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think somebody in the comments out here, Andrew says Chelsea have 8 final defeats in 11. I'm not sure how accurate that is. Like, it could totally perfectly be fine. I don't have the number off the top of my head, but that just speaks volumes to what you were saying, that Chelsea really haven't been. We've been getting to a lot of finals, which is amazing, but it feels like once we get to the final, we're just not doing enough. So do you think that this FA Cup performance, I do want to talk about the FA Cup performance a bit. Do you think that it was on Tuchel, on the players? I was speaking before that I didn't feel that the starting 11 was necessarily like that strong, like as strong as a starting 11 that I would have picked for this game. I think you have to pick your strongest starting 11, even though you have all these games coming up. They're all really important games. Personally, I wouldn't have played Kepa. Like, I understand the argument that he was in the FA Cup and he got you to that point, but I think in a final you have to play your strongest 11, and that's Mendy. I would have played Chilwell over Alonso. He's playing against his old side. I don't know. It just felt like a little bit off. What do you think?
Yeah, I was surprised about the Alonso one. Because I usually write out my team before the match, and I wrote Chilwell's name in there. I knew Kepa was starting, but yeah, I mean Chilwell's been the main guy really in the last few weeks, and to see him left out, okay, maybe it was tactical, maybe it was because of height from set pieces or something like that. I think that's what Tuchel said before the game, but yeah, I mean it is a big disappointment for Chilwell against this former club. I mean, I saw an interview with him before the match, and he was desperate to do something against Leicester. He really wanted to put Leicester down and sort of like draw a line under it because Leicester beat Chelsea in the league as well. So he wanted to show why he moved to Chelsea. So I think that it would have made sense from a man management point of view as well to put him in. But yeah, I mean, it's difficult. It's easy to say with hindsight that Thomas Tuchel got it wrong, but I think Kepa probably deserved his shot. I mean, from a man management point of view, it made sense to me. Was he at fault for the long range shot? A lot of people are telling me yes. A lot of people are sharing this highlights video of Kepa's, conceding from long range. But yeah, I mean, some of those goals were poor from long range, but I don't think the Tielemans one would have been saved by Mendy. And people were saying Mendy was great against Real Madrid. Yeah, those shots were a lot easier to save than the one that Tielemans hit into the top corner. That was right in the corner. It felt unstoppable. If a keeper saved that, I don't know. I probably won't believe my eyes. So yeah, that was my feeling on it. And I think that the way Tuchel manages Kepa will really please the board as well, because they don't want to see a big player like that. 71 million was paid. They don't want to see him completely out of the picture. So I think it's a breath of fresh air from that point of view. And you've seen him improve his performances because he feels trusted. So he got 5 clean sheets in a row. In a way, he's not been a disaster since Thomas Tuchel got in charge. So yeah, I mean that save from Jorginho's pass back.
Yeah. That was just atrocious.
that was a good moment for him, though. It was a good save.
Yeah. No, it was. But do you think that his price tag goes into this at all? Like, I kind of get the feeling that if he was an academy player, that's our second keeper, that maybe you do start Mendy in the cup final.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, the problem is his price tag, and then his wages are so high that you can't just forget about him. You can't just leave him alone, because you need a plan for him. He's an international goalkeeper. He's got a long contract. He seems impossible to sell. I've been covering the transfers and stuff like that, and it just seems unachievable for any club outside of maybe 6 clubs to even afford him. So he has to get back to a half decent level to not be seen as one of football's great flops. And to be honest, he could go down in history, really, in Premier League history, as one of the worst signings ever if he gets left out for too long. So it really is that kind of situation with him. And he's a good guy, he's a nice guy, and he was signed for a reason. So play him a little bit, give him a little bit of a chance to get back in the team. Also, that means Mendy has to play better, because he knows that Kepa's genuine competition rather than just just playing a little bit of lip service. So and Mendy's also not used to playing 2 games a week. He's come from Rennes, who were pretty small club compared to Chelsea. Didn't play in Europe, and he's playing more than ever. So that shows how well he's done this season as well, is that he's handling the pressure of playing 2 games a week a lot. And if Kepa can come in and relieve that pressure for a week, it's okay. It probably helps Mendy. Maybe has a better Champions League final now that Kepa's handled a little bit of the workload. So it's okay, I think. I think that way of managing him has been good. And with Alonso, I thought that was a wrong decision. Other positions, it's so easy to say it's wrong. I thought, Ziyech has proven himself a big game player this season. Mount is obviously a big game player as well. And then Werner, we could talk all day about Werner, about what you want to do with him, but he backs him to the hilt, doesn't he? He backs him all day long. And I mean, actually, Chelsea might have missed Werner against Arsenal. So, and then, he doesn't play that well in the final. So you don't know. Maybe you should play Werner against Arsenal and play Pulisic. But there's just so much talent. It's so hard to get it right. And I think that sometimes Tuchel does struggle with that. And I think Lampard struggled with it as well. I think Chelsea have too much, and they need to let a few go in the summer. and maybe even, maybe just sign one really massive player and let a few go. I think that would be the better transfer policy going forward.
Wow. Okay. There's so much that I want to unpack in what you've just said. So, first off, like the Timo Werner situation, I think, frustrating because he can perform, but he's just like kind of a frustrating player to watch. He can have a terrible game, but then he can go on and get a goal contribution. Maybe not a goal, but an assist, or maybe winning a penalty using his pace. I think the same kind of goes for Ziyech, that he can have a bad game and then create something out of nothing as well. I think, like what you said, it's just so difficult because you have all of these players that want to start, that you signed, that you paid a lot of money for them. They should be starting. And it's just getting chopped and changed a lot. And I think that could also contribute to why Chelsea haven't been playing like amazing, because you're constantly changing who you're building the attack with, and it's not as fluid. You don't have as much of an understanding or chemistry with these players, and you just don't really know who's going to show up in which game. Like, none of the attackers, you can say, have been completely consistent. One game Pulisic has a good game, then the next game he doesn't play well and ghosts it, and like I think that goes for every single attacker. So my question to you, Tammy is still, I think you probably knew that we were going to talk about Tammy at some point, but, he's still Chelsea's joint top scorer, and he hasn't really played in like 3 to 4 months. So what do you make of that situation? Because I thought it was really weird that you have 2 left backs on the bench in Chilwell and Emerson, but you don't have Tammy. Like, is there anything going on could there be anything going on behind the scenes? Because otherwise I don't understand why he's not playing.
Yeah, I think that's a logical conclusion to draw. But everyone I talked to about Tammy says that he's been, professional, quite a good influence. I think initially he handled the situation quite badly because, when he was dropped at first, but then you saw he came back a little bit. He played against West Ham off the bench, and he was on the bench a couple of times. And around that period, I think his attitude's supposed to be exemplary, but in reality, and I don't think that Tuchel expects anything less anyway, is that he is really annoyed at the situation. He doesn't want to stay at Chelsea much longer should it continue. But I think also the plan is that Chelsea are going to sell him in the summer. I think that that's kind of becoming the plan. Giroud probably also leave as well. So that's kind of why I'm saying, maybe lighten the squad a little bit. Because there's too many players who are not playing, and that's even outside of the ones who do play, but maybe not enough, like Pulisic and stuff. So, I mean, that's the situation with Tammy. It's obvious, the 2 left backs thing. I think that's a kind of annoyance that a lot of people have. But I think Emerson, he proved that he can have an impact as well against Atletico Madrid when he scored that last-minute goal.
First time.
It's surprising. He's such an unglamorous player, and Tammy's so much more exciting to talk about. But he did a job for the team. He's supposed to be a really great guy as well behind the scenes. Everyone who speaks about him absolutely loves him. That's why you saw Mount, Thiago Silva, and Jorginho going crazy when he scored, because they love him. They love him. It's that kind of situation where they're a bit overstacked. But Emerson can play in different positions. Where he plays left wing against Atletico Madrid, he played centre-back against Barnsley. So, that's part of the problem for Tammy. And then I think for Tammy, the writing on the wall has been there ever since Havertz was converted to a false 9. Ever since that day, Chelsea already had too many strikers, but since that day, they've had 4 number 9s. So, they play one. So Tammy has been absolutely bombed out. Giroud's barely getting in. One of them can get on the bench, but even then, I don't think they're that bothered about bringing them on. Even Pulisic, I think he's all right as a number 9, and Mount can play false 9 as well. So I think that maybe football's changing as well at the top level. You see Man City playing with false 9s a lot this season and been very successful. Chelsea's best performances have often come with, a small striker this season as well. So I think that Tammy's just suffered from Tuchel being in, if we're honest. He's completely been terrible for Tammy's Chelsea career. But, Chelsea have a lot of other great players that hopefully will improve in the next few years, like Kai Havertz. Hopefully he becomes a superstar. He is supposed to be that level of talent, Same with Werner with his goal record in Germany. They want that from him. So Tuchel's backing those guys and sidelining Tammy Abraham, and we can't sugarcoat it really. That's just what's happening, and that's why I was left out of the cup final. And you know, Tuchel gets asked about it every press conference. He gives the most boring answers.
Yeah, exactly. He's not gonna say anything.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, it's a bummer because I really like Tammy. I've been a fan of his like since the academy days, and I think that he could go on to be a really good striker. I think he probably just needs like more time and consistency, and maybe Chelsea isn't the place that's going to give him that. Or I could easily see him going to score 20 plus goals in a season. Like I think he is very good, but it'll be interesting to see where he goes. So do you think that Chelsea need to sell a striker, or sorry, do you think that Chelsea need to buy a striker in the summer, given that Tammy and Giroud are probably leaving? And are there any other outgoings and incomings that you kind of are expecting or heard about?
Yeah, it's definitely focused on a striker, number one. You know, there's been a bit of talk of Sancho, but I don't think that's going to happen just because he's not a striker, basically. And look at the wingers, man. That's an even more stock position.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, that's basically that in a nutshell. And then strikers. Haaland has been well publicised. I think we all know that really now. It's kind of general knowledge that he's a major target. But Dortmund have qualified for the Champions League, so I'm quite interested to see what happens. And if Sancho goes, Haaland certainly won't go. So that would pretty much rule him out of a transfer. And then you've got maybe, you know, a level of strikers below, like Romelu Lukaku. Is somebody Chelsea are interested in, but he's also very hard to sign. I mean, I think that if Chelsea signed Romelu Lukaku, Conte would quit Inter. That's how important Lukaku is to Inter Milan. So he's the last player to want to sell, the last player Conte wants to sell out of any player in that squad. But Inter is said to have some financial trouble, so that gives like a glimmer of hope to Chelsea. And the other problem for Chelsea with the strikers is that everyone Chelsea wants, Man City also wants, because Man City are losing Sergio Aguero this summer. He's joining Barcelona almost certainly. They're finding they want their own big name striker up front as well. But that's kind of the situation around the strikers. Would Chelsea drop down to a lesser striker? They're certainly scouting a few that are like, you know, not as bigger names, but maybe doing quite well in like smaller leagues, like Jonathan David in Lille. They've been scouting him for some time. I'm not sure if they'd pull a trigger on him or not, but there are those kind of strikers as well that they're looking at, and they were interested in Aguero himself as well, but it looks almost certain he's going to Barcelona. So yeah, striker. I'm not sure where they'll end up with that yet. I don't think they are, and it's a long transfer window as well. They've extended it right to the end to give teams a long time to make a deal. So most deals, when I talk to agents, they're saying nothing's close or it'll happen after the Euros. So I think that's going to be the sort of situation there. And then, beyond that, a lot of player sales, left backs, too many left backs. Somebody's going to leave. Probably Emerson, I think, will leave just because there's a bigger market for him because he's younger and on lower wages. And then, I think Chelsea might look at a centre-back, but you know, the longer the season goes on and the better Chelsea defence plays, the less chance they have to sign a centre-back, I think, because they have to make a decision on renewing contracts as well. So they have to decide to renew Christensen's deal. I think they'll do that in the end for sure. But they've got to negotiate the situation and it's all complicated around that. And what's he going to earn and how long is he going to get on his deal? Similar with Rudiger, I think that there was a good chance Rudiger might have left, but the way he's playing, and I asked Tuchel about it today actually in the press conference.
No way.
Yeah, and he was like, for me, you know, I would keep him as long as he wants to stay. So that was interesting. He sort of put it that way. I think that Rudiger would want to stay. I think he's really loving life in London and under Thomas Tuchel and stuff like that. So yeah, they have to come to a deal with Rudiger. It's about money again, about the length of the deal. Rudiger's a bit older, so it's more complicated. Yeah. But I think that people want that done, and he's been really good. And is it easy to sign a better player than Rudiger in defence or Christensen? For me, no. For me, I think they're great, and they're already learning the Thomas Tuchel system, the ways. And yeah, I think Thiago will also stay as well another year. So those three I thought could have left, but they're all seem to be staying now. So I've heard a lot of names being linked centre backs wise, but less and less noise around it at the moment. So it's leading me to think that there's going to be more contract renewals, one big striker signing, and that's sort of my prediction for the transfer window on what I'm hearing at the moment. But I guess it could change if Rudiger rejects a contract that he doesn't like what Chelsea are offering. We've seen it with loads of players in the past. Then maybe Chelsea go in for a centre back like Nicolas Sula, or maybe someone like Pau Torres or Koundé from Sevilla. But one of those kind of centre backs, younger, hungry centre backs that can do a job.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you had so many players that were out on the fringe and you just expect like, oh, they're going to be sold in the summer, and now they kind of are in a state where they could have their contract renewed. I personally would like to see us potentially play in a back four at some point next season, just because I feel like if you have so many defenders on the pitch, you're sacrificing an attacker, and perhaps that could also help with Chelsea's lack of goals at the moment as well. Like, I don't think you need to be playing five at the back against like a Newcastle, for example, or whatever team that plays a low block. So I would like to see us maybe sign somebody who we know can play in a back four. I'm not sure about the current center backs, like they could, but I feel like we've seen it and it's looked a little bit suspect at times as well. So it will be interesting to see, but I'd personally like to see us experiment with that a little bit. What do you think? What about Jorginho? Have you heard anything about him? Because he still has I've seen that there might be contract negotiations, but he still has 2 years left on his contract. He's 29, going on 30 as well. So I feel like.
Yeah, I think that when you're 29 at Chelsea, you need to get your contract talks done because, when you're 30, it gets harder and harder. So, it could be that they offer him something. But, it's interesting with Jorginho because his agent is like really outspoken. He does like a lot of interviews on the record and stuff. And he said that, he's just going to play his 2 years and then leave, which you can do if you want as a player. He's totally, able to do that. Maybe return to Italy after his 2 years at Chelsea. Some players really have that as like, when they sign a contract, they sign and then they complete it and then they leave. And it sounded a bit like that. I'm not quite sure what's going to happen with Jorginho. Of course, Thomas Tuchel really likes him because he tried to sign him at PSG. He's always been sort of like interested in him. He's took him to another level. This season, I think he's been brilliant. Okay, had a terrible game against Arsenal, but apart from that, he's been brilliant. And the amount of games he's played as well, I think, you've got to forgive him a bad game as well. I don't really know what they're going to do with him. I think that a lot of Chelsea fans would like to see the central midfield strengthened, but I think Tuchel absolutely loves his three midfielders. I think that if you could ask him to pick three midfielders in world football to have in his midfield, those three would rank very high up. He absolutely loves Kovacic. He absolutely loves Kante. He absolutely loves Jorginho. So for me, there might be a spot for one, but we've seen how little Gilmore's played as well this season. So I'm not sure what they're going to do with the fourth one. And they've got like good loanees as well that could maybe slot in and be the fourth. So it's an interesting one. I've not heard too much about midfielders transfer wise, not heard too much about Jorginho or a contract. I have asked the question, but it's just been like he's happy he's got a 2-year deal basically, 2 years left and that situation. And he said that in an interview as well, Jorginho. So it's an interesting one. It could be just one of those that one day you just wake up and Chelsea put out a press release and say we've got him for extend his contract by an extra year, which they could do as well. I think if they do offer him a new deal, that they might just add a year on rather than give him a long-term deal.
Yeah, I mean, that would make sense.
Yeah. Just because he's a bit older and Chelsea don't like losing players for free. So if his plan is to leave for free, their plan will be like, we at least want 10, 15, 20 million for you. Yeah. So sign an extra year and we'll offer you a little bit of money.
You never know, right? Like if it's just like if they actually want to play that extra year, if it's what's the word? Like what's the word? No, I can't think of it. Like strategic. It's funny. A lot of people are saying in the comments to sell Jorginho. I feel like the Chelsea fan base is like very, very divided on him. But it's kind of interesting because I felt like after that Arsenal game, he obviously made a very big error. You could also look at Zuma as well for that, but at the end of the day, like that error was massive, and you don't really hear Tuchel like criticizing it all that much. But then he's come out and spoken about the academy players quite a bit. Like I think I've seen Mace, Tammy, I think Reese as well. So do you think that there's a reason that he like is talking about the academy players in the press, but not necessarily these senior players for Chelsea? Like I personally haven't really heard much about the senior players.
Yeah, it might just be because people ask him about the academy players. Like, English media is more interested in English players, so you do get your like narrative skewed towards Mount, towards Tammy Abraham, especially forward players. So they're always the focus. And yeah, he was a bit critical of Mason Mount after the the last FA Cup final, where he's saying they were trying to force stuff, and he did criticise actually Werner and Ziyech as well. So it wasn't just Mount, but yeah, I don't think there's much in that. I think that the only thing that's in that is that Tuchel likes older players. I think that's definitely true. I think even Alonso maybe being in the final was partly down to his age. So I think he just goes for experience. He just trusts experience. He respects experience, and it's the opposite from Lampard, and that is probably where they differ the most. These two managers, and some people won't like that, but if it's getting results, which it is, then there's absolutely no complaints. And when people say, "Oh, how is it behind the scenes and stuff like that?" and I ask the question to people who are like insiders, they're just like, as long as they're winning, everything's fine. Like you can't complain as a young player at all. Like Tammy can't complain too much because they're winning. But the second they stop winning, and they've stopped winning now, but if that carries on, then Tammy has a real reason to complain and knock on the manager's door and say, look, right, you're not winning anymore. I want to play. And that's the point, I think, that changes. And that's why there's a bit of maybe frustration at the end of Lampard's time, because he stuck with guys despite losing. And it'd be interesting to see how Tuchel deals with that with such a big squad.
That leads me perfectly to the next couple of things I wanted to ask you about. So Chelsea haven't been playing well, haven't been scoring goals. We know under Tuchel, Chelsea just have not been scoring that many goals. But given 2 losses in a row now, it's really a make it or break it point in the season. You have to beat Leicester really to get top 4, like must be done. So who do you see starting in this game?
Yeah, I see there being a bit of rotation. I think Kovacic will start, and I think Christensen. I mean, I don't have any reason to believe that they're too badly injured. I know they were left out completely, but they trained, then weren't mentioned as injured before this game. So I think that he would have targeted this. And I think that rotations where Chelsea can beat Leicester is actually just the fact that Leicester don't have the squad that Chelsea have. They've got a few they can get in, but as soon as they bring in their guys, they're dropping a big level, whereas Chelsea are rotating guys and not dropping too much. So yeah, but I think that Tuchel increasingly towards the end of this season, apart from the Arsenal game, pretty much he's not been rotating as heavily, and he is relying on his trusted guys. And I think we all know who he trusts the most in that squad. He trusts Werner, he trusts Mount, he trusts those 3 midfielders I just talked about, and we know that his favourite defence as well. I think he loves Christensen the way he's been playing. I think increasingly he prefers Azpilicueta at wing back to Reece James, which is another controversial issue we could probably talk about for hours. So yeah, there's a lot. So I think that more and more of those trusted guys are going to play, and yeah, get some good minutes in the next weeks, and they might just have to play every game because the next 3 games are so big that, yeah, I think that's going to be the situation. Maybe just Kovacic and Christensen rotating in, maybe another forward Pulisic, but not too many guys.
Interesting. I think that Pulisic was playing really well, and then all of a sudden he's kind of been dropped to the bench. And like I said, I don't feel like anybody's been playing spectacularly, but it did seem like he was starting to find like his post restart form. So I think like for me it's surprising that you don't play Pulisic in like a cup final, and I would kind of expect to see him starting against this Leicester side, but like we've been talking about, it's just so difficult for anybody to guess or to predict, because I think for Tuchel as well, it must be very difficult because you have so many players that aren't performing as you expect them to. But who do you think right now is Chelsea's strongest front three that should be starting in this Leicester game tomorrow?
Yeah, I probably, I don't know if I have the same opinion as you, but for me, I go Pulisic, Werner, Mount. But what do you go? What do you go?
I go Pulisic, Mount, and then the last spot I'm super undecided always. Um, I I always go between Timo Werner and Kai Havertz. I think I kind of had this theory that's been disproven now, but I had a theory that Kai and Pulisic had like chemistry together, and Timo and Ziyech had chemistry together. And we saw that Timo was assisting a lot of Ziyech's goals, and I think that Pulisic and Havertz were playing and starting to get an understanding, and they're both like very interchangeable players that you find like that they go into the pitch and find these like spaces and they can work in tight spaces. So I really don't know, because I don't think that Werner had a good game against Leicester at all. So I don't know if I want to see him starting again. But then against Arsenal, I felt that we needed him. So I feel super torn. Guys, let me know in the comments who you think that we should start as the front three. I'm sure we're not going to have the same response between people. I would be really surprised. I think I would go Pulisic, Mount, Kai. I think Kai's been in slightly better form, and he's been more of a goal scorer. He botched that transfer to Arsenal as well. So really just don't know who's going to be playing.
That's the problem. Yeah, I think Kai could be good against Leicester actually. So I might change my mind for this game only, just because they defend so deep. Maybe good to have a big guy on. And what people always forget about Kai, even I forgot it, is that he's brilliant in the air, and he's a threat from that point of view.
Yeah, he is taller as well. I think the problem with Timo, I'm not sure if you were on when I was speaking about this. I said it at some point during the stream, is that I feel like he needs a lot of space in order to operate, and maybe he needs to adjust his game a little bit to the Premier League, because in a large majority of games, you're probably not going to get that space to run in behind and use your pace if you're playing against a low block. Like, you have to have like a good first touch and be able to operate in tight spaces and pick out the pass. And I don't feel like he's necessarily been doing that this season. Perhaps he can do that in the next season. I still think that it's just an adjustment period for all of the new signings, and it's been a really weird year. And so I totally give them this year to get accustomed to the Premier League and learn. And I hope that next season he can just take off flying like how we expected him to. But yeah, I think a lot of people are saying Kai, Pulisic, Mount in the comments. Lots and lots of people. So I think that seems to be the consensus. Some people are saying Tammy as well. It'd be interesting to see if Tammy makes the bench, if he doesn't or not. I would personally have him on the bench at least. I don't know. So I think,
I'm never counting on that at the moment.
Yeah, right. I wouldn't place money on it. So I think I did you see that video of the Leicester playing, like throwing the Chelsea flag
Yeah.
in the dressing room? So I really am hoping that that defeat in the FA Cup final, seeing that, is going to light a fire under these players, and we absolutely need to win this game. Do you think that we're going to see a response from this Chelsea side?
Yeah, I'd love to see it. I don't think that that's what Thomas is calling for. I think he thinks that they did give a lot, and they were passionate, and they gave it their all. For me, I do get the criticism that they weren't quite, maybe didn't want it as much as Leicester, but yeah, I think that might change, because it's a league game as well. I think that actually the Champions League is like such an expectation, such a pressure for Chelsea, probably more than Leicester. So they need to kind of show that aggression as well about that, because they want to be in the Champions League. Leicester, it feels like Leicester can be in the Europa League, and they've still got a successful season. But for Chelsea, it's like, Chelsea, this is a Champions League club. You know, I think that with the players they've signed as well, I think that the board at that level, they expected Champions League to be easy, to be in there, and then close the gap on Man City. But it's not really been like that. So, it's not been, like you said, it's a strange season. They lost Frank, but you know that they expect to be in Champions League. So I think that they want a reaction, of course. The players will want to react. Get Chilwell in with his sort of like, sort of like after leaving Leicester, to show him a piece of his mind, sort of thing. He'll be on a mission, I think. I think that that's going to be the sort of situation. But you know, you never know. You could also say that maybe the confidence has been knocked, because Chelsea have been so used to winning. I mean, defeats have been rare. The Porto one doesn't even count in my mind.
No, for me either.
So it's just the West Brom game, which was a weird game. But now they've lost 2 in a row. Maybe that could maybe flatten some confidence. Who knows? So I don't know. It could go either way. It's going to be so interesting and nervy. And I mean, Leicester are a really defensive team as well. So it's going to be like just one of those tight games, really tight games.
Oh, I'm too nervous for it, honestly, especially with Liverpool having won yesterday. Was it that it was just like the 95th minute, Alisson scoring? I was like, of course this is going to happen. It's still in our hands, but it is definitely not going to be easy at all. So, but we've talked about Chelsea. I do want to get to ask you about your career, of course, for everybody, because it's, you know, it's just like so crazy where you are, and I want to know how you got there. So how did you get to become the Chelsea correspondent for Goal?
Yeah, just applied for the job. So it just shows you, know, if you see a job out there you like, just go for it, apply for it, and see what happens, really. And yeah, I mean, I'm probably a weird person, because I'm not really the kind of like, I never really dreamed of being a Chelsea correspondent. I did want to be a sports journalist, but I just thought Chelsea would be a really fun club to cover. Like, it's never boring. Like, it's always a big story. I live in London. I wanted to stay in London. I'm from Manchester, actually. I just thought, let's do this. It'll be fun. It'll be super interesting. And it's been amazing. It's so cool to travel around the world watching Chelsea and stuff like that. But yeah, I think the sort of moral of the story is, I applied for so many jobs that I thought, I'm definitely going to get that. I'm going to be perfect for that. And never got the job. And I applied for this job, and I was like, I'm probably not really right for this job. I don't think I'll be that good. But the bosses, if they're watching, they still trusted me and gave me the shot. I think I've done an okay job, at least for the companies.
Just to say the least.
It was a bit of a learning curve, getting used to like everyone at Chelsea, getting to know them, all the people behind the scenes and stuff like that, and learning more about Chelsea, learning about the Chelsea women's team, who have been covering a bit more of lately. Just been sort of like a big learning curve. I'm still learning now. Before that, I was working at the Daily Mirror newspaper, just like doing some sports stuff, video stuff behind the scenes, not really like well known on Twitter. I think I had like 1,000 followers, and now like I've got like, pretty much everyone since I've joined Goal. So it is mad how the world works, I didn't expect this from my life. I didn't know what was going to happen. I just sort of like went for it, and here we are. And I guess I cover a lot of Chelsea, and you guys know who I am, which I find mad enough as it is.
This is so cool, honestly. So what does like a day-to-day look like for you?
Just every day is quite different, to be fair. Lockdown, it's been more similar. A lot of phone calls, a lot of like traveling to meet contacts before lockdown, going to the training ground twice a week, traveling to games. So I mean, the thing about this job is, if you don't like working late at night, and if you don't like working long hours, and if you don't like working weekends and maybe missing your friends' birthday parties and stuff, maybe it's not for you, because there are unsociable hours, that there are hard parts about it. Sometimes you get big disappointments, like you get a big name interview lined up. I'm sure you've had it, and they cancel at the last minute and stuff. So you do get those kind of disappointments. You have to be you have to accept rejection. Like, rejection's part of a reporter's life. So that's what my day-to-day looks like a little bit. But on the quiet days, I try to work 9 till 5 in the office and spend time with my family and stuff after. And there's like a lot of podcasts and recordings as well that you do as well. So it's all like that really. And just working with your contacts on WhatsApp a lot. Like, my WhatsApp's going off all the time. I'm sure it's maybe not as crazy as like Fabrizio Romano or David or David Ornstein or someone, but it is pretty bad. So I don't know how those guys do it. So it's a bit like that really. And then you get stuff like Super League, where you just work in a week, and your work's turned up. You think you're going to interview this person, do this, this, and this, and then you just cancel everything and work on one thing. So it can be crazy.
It sounds absolutely nuts, but super rewarding. So I'm going to kind of tweak this question. We are getting some viewer questions that I do want to make sure that I do ask you a couple at least. So, like, what advice would you give to anybody who's trying to get into football journalism or football media in general?
I think they could look at someone like you, who's like building a great following and got a great channel and platform. That's probably like my one thing. That's not how I got into it. I got into it a different way, but I think that increasingly a lot of people are looking at like, people who are influencers or just doing stuff. You have to do stuff. That's the most important thing. Like, I think that's the advice that I got given that really set in. Just do stuff, and people see your stuff and like your stuff, and then hire you, and that's it. So whatever you do, that's the way. But for me, I went down like university, studied journalism, like not sports journalism, just normal journalism, got jobs, rubbish jobs, worked my way up through rubbish jobs to better jobs, and then eventually got quite a fun job. And that's how I sort of approached my career, worked really hard as well. And I guess the other thing that I could say is that I got a range of skills. So like, I can do video, I can do podcasts, I can do writing. And being a good writer is really important as well still. Just be good at all those things, social media, just try and be good on the trends that are out there, and just try and do as much different things as possible. And then you can apply for many different jobs. I applied to be a video editor, Chelsea correspondent, all sorts of different things across the board before I got this job. And this is the one I ended up getting. So life could have been very different. And I would have been happy still. I would have been happy in a great media job somewhere else as well. But I'm really happy that I'm at goal doing the Chelsea stuff.
Yeah, I think that's like fantastic advice, especially for somebody like myself who's like would absolutely love to get into the industry at some point. Guys, I obviously have nobody to really be giving advice. But for me, like, I think just grind is like really important. And even if you feel like it's not working, just keep going, because eventually you're going to break through. And I think like there's maybe some times where you feel like you want to give up or you want to stop or it's just too much, but just keep going, because it will be worth it, and you're going to grow and you're going to get better at whatever you do. And that's something that we can all keep doing. A couple more questions. I just started going through them. I was so behind. So who was the best interview of your career? And I also kind of wanted to add to that and say, is there any manager or player that you really, really enjoy interviewing consistently?
Yeah, well, I enjoyed Conte. He was always so respectful. Yeah, he used to wish like Merry Christmas to you, and he bought us like beers at some times and stuff like that. And yeah, he always had good funny anecdotes and a lot of time for us, and I enjoyed that. I really enjoyed covering him as a manager. Sarri was a bit more not very personable really, and didn't enjoy it, I don't think. So you get those kind of mixes. And then when it comes to interviews, I liked Fabregas is really good. Cesc Fabregas is so
nice, honestly.
Yeah, he's great. He's very intelligent and charismatic and stuff. And yeah, I don't know, like John Terry was very good. Like he surprised me a little bit. He's very personable and stuff like that. And yeah, I don't know. There's just so many. I remember being at Jeremy Bowen's house eating chicken with him, and it was just like the most natural thing. Kyle Tomori, great. Mason Mount. I did the first interview with Mount out of any English, journalist. So that was great. And yeah, it just felt like I was talking to such a mature, nice person, and he had so much time for me and stuff. So yeah, I did him at Derby County as well. And then when he came to Chelsea, you see him kind of regularly as well. The last interview I did before the pandemic, and face to face as well with a Chelsea player. So yeah, I mean, there's just so many great guys, to be honest. I remember being starstruck with Drogba and Eden Hazard as well. I remember him talking about his future.
I would faint if I was in the same room with Eden Hazard. Honestly, I don't know if I could contain myself for that one.
I was very starstruck. Yeah, him talking about his future. I think at Leicester, actually, Leicester away. It was a boring game, but he gave like all the insight and stuff. It felt big, So yeah, loads of stuff like that. Brilliant. Frank Lampard was very respectful and nice as well. And Jose Mourinho is just a master of the media. Like, he is the master. I'm always entertained hearing that man speak. So yeah, there's a million.
Is it like nerve-wracking or like, do you get anxious at all interviewing these big managers with big personalities like Jose Mourinho?
I'm trying to think. I think I used to get really anxious, like really bad in the early days, but yeah, I think now I'm getting used to the process of just getting ready for the interview. And as long as I'm prepared, I'm not nervous. If I was like totally not prepared on camera, yeah, I'd be very nervous. But now I know I can do it, sort of thing. So when you've repeated it so many times, it gets a lot easier.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I would be extremely nervous to be going up against a Mourinho. So final question thought. This is breaking news. Maybe you've already seen it, but apparently Harry Kane has just handed in his transfer request from Tottenham. So did you know this, and any idea where he's going or wants to go, or any news on Harry Kane transfer request? Because
no, I really don't have any idea what's going to happen there, but wow. Yeah, I mean, I think he's the kind of player, I think that Man City would be probably front runners for him, which upsets me greatly because I think he's unbelievable. So yeah, but he's going to be unbelievably expensive. I don't really know what the situation is, how Spurs are going to let him go, because they don't need the money and they could just pretty much hold teams to ransom. So, big transfers like Kane these days are very hard to pull off. So I don't know like what the situation is there at all. I've seen him linked to Chelsea as well. I've not had, and of course Chelsea would be interested, but I can't see it being possible to pull off just because they hate each other, two teams, and to do that transfer is to kill Tottenham, I think. So I don't think they'll allow that. And that's sort of the way I see the situation with Kane. But wow, what a bombshell!
It is a bombshell. I thought that he was still on like a fairly long contract as well, so it would be interesting to see if they can get money for him. I don't see him going to Chelsea at all. Like, we all know the history between Chelsea and Tottenham. They're not going to sell to like such a direct rival. So I know that I would love to have Harry Kane. I think he's an amazing player, but I don't think it's going to happen. But yeah, what a bombshell. Will be interesting to see where he goes. Maybe somewhere else in England. If City get him, that is like maybe another league for them. Honestly, it's that good of a signing. But Nizaar, thank you so freaking much for coming on my channel. Honestly, it has been such a pleasure, and I can't believe that you're here with me. That is just insane. So thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
No worries. It's a pleasure to be on. Good to meet you finally.
Yeah, it's been a while. So guys, I really hope that you enjoyed this stream. Lots of things coming up for the end of the season. Hopefully we have some better news tomorrow after the Chelsea Leicester game. Fans will be back in the stadium, so maybe that will give us some home advantage at some point. I don't know. Let's hope that Chelsea can get this win. I'll be back for maybe a match preview if I have enough time. Definitely a match review. And yeah, hope you enjoyed this stream. Don't forget to subscribe. It's going to be annoying about that. And yeah, until next time, I'm out.